Hey, everybody. Welcome to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT, and we are proud to be a part of the Golf News Network on iHeart, among other things and other platforms, different radio stations around the Northwest and the country. We want to thank the folks at Birdie Ball and Painted Hills Natural Beef for supporting this show. Well, the U.S. Women's Open just got wrapped up about 4.5 days ago, 5 days ago at Erin Hills, and I could think of nobody better to bring on the show and give us an overview and her thoughts, but Kay Cockerill from NBC/Golf Channel. And Kay's been on the show before. She's a great guest. And so welcome back.
Thank you, Jeff. It's good to be back. I'm sure you could have drummed up a couple other people that might have brought you as much enjoyment as me. Like some of my coworkers, they might have you might have had fun with them.
Oh, I've had fun with a number of them over the years, but you're my go-to when we're talking LPGA.
Thanks.
So plus you always come to Portland every year and cover that one.
I have bad news. I'm
Oh
not making
no.
it.
Really? Why?
I hate it when two great events collide and are on top of each other. And it seems like it happens once a year, every year, and the U.S. Amateur
Yeah.
National Exam is being held at Olympic Club, my home city, my home course, and of course, I've got to be on that show, and it's up against the Portland LPGA this year.
Oh, I'll miss you. I'll miss you.
I know.
Um, but I'm pretty sure you'll have fun down there too, like you always
Well,
do.
you can't beat a home game. For as much as I
No,
travel, you cannot beat a home game.
no, that's true. So, interesting open from a strictly a viewer's perspective here. Um, you had Stark kind of putting it away really like on Saturday. We didn't know that, but she did. And then you had Nelly doing her Nelly thing coming from way behind on Friday and making a run at it. Some other interesting players we'll talk about in the show, but what was your general overview of the Women's Open?
Overall, I think it was a great women's open. The golf course was a stern test. It probably they pushed the limits on a few aspects, especially on Saturday. Um, but no one ever said the U.S. Open, U.S. Women's Open was going to be a cakewalk. So
Right.
it pushed you mentally and physically. And that golf course is just a beast of a golf course.
Yeah.
In 2012, en route to going up to Black Wolf Run, where the U.S. Women's Open was being played for a second time, and it happened to be in under a heat dome. It was so hot, and there's like three trees out there up on hills for aesthetics. And I didn't, I think I just didn't have a very good recollection of the golf course, except it wore me out. And I think when I returned, it just looked really good. The grass was green, and the definition of the fairways and greens was very dramatic. I don't think it's a golf course I'd want to play with regularity, but I thought it was a great test for this open. And Maya Stark, I guess, she just really had a good feeling about the golf course early in the week during practice rounds. And you never know if you're going to get that, just really connect with a golf course, especially one
Yeah.
that the women hadn't played before and was so unusual. But for her to connect with it and have really good feelings, that was a good omen for the week.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, I watched a lot of it. And like you said, I looked at it and and I've never seen it in person. That's one of the few I haven't. And I thought, that is a beast. I probably called it something else, but it is a beast. And I probably wouldn't want to play it every Tuesday or something like that because I'd be on the phone to Snell Golf or Titleist or Bridgestone or somebody, send me replacements. But I did think it was a fair test. And the one thing that I think this year's Open did was if you watched and you paid attention, uh, it was it really showed the skill level of of the players. I mean, at a very, very, very high level. And they do that week in and week out. But I think the presentation and the course, and if you really paid attention, it was exemplary to show their skill level and to see uh, Stark and Corda and all the ladies out there just grinding. And this course was designed to beat the hell out of them, and they didn't let it.
Well, we also saw some carnage too, and there was some explanation that some of these shots that players are hitting make you look a lot worse than you are. To your point, there were some amazing, iron shots and chipping that had to be done to score around there. But there were certain hole locations and just the nature of these greens and the contours and the fact that there were some slopes that you could utilize to get your ball close to the hole, but there were other slopes and faults edges that would repel and take your ball not just slightly off the green, but 40, 50 yards away, often up on the edge of some primary rough. So the greens, although they were, I think, 6,500 square feet on average, they played a lot smaller because of all these ridges and sort of takeaway areas. So on Saturday, I talk about Saturday, that was the USGA set the course up the shortest all week at 6,500 and change. It had been playing 67 to 68, which is no walk in the park.
Yeah.
Uh, but the day they played it the shortest on Saturday after the cut was made, these are the best of the best from that week. The scoring average was like 75. It was the highest scoring average because they upped the green speed to 30, wait, what am I saying? The stimp meter,
Like
uh,
13 or something.
13.6.
Oh, wow.
And it had been rather relatively benign earlier in the week because we had a fair bit of rain on Tuesday, Wednesday. So it was a little soft. There wasn't as much wind that popped up. And then all of a sudden on Saturday, it was like, whoa, 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 what are we putting on next? And I think it really surprised some players maybe that didn't have a lot of USGA experience to know how radically the golf course can change once they put their mind to it and if Mother Nature cooperates. So, it was just a beast that day. And then Sunday, I think there was a little they softened up some of the whole locations a little bit, and then players were also just a little more accustomed to the speed by then.
I noticed in what I watched on Saturday and Sunday a bit too. Some of those putts they would just kind of blow by. Um, and like you said, not stopped. And I'll bring up a point to that is on Sunday watching Nelly on 18, and she hit like a 3 wood or a hybrid or something. I don't remember. And it was beautiful, and it landed on the front of the green, and it ended like 60 feet on the other side of the green. By the time it got done rolling, that was tough.
And she ended up making a bogey there. I mean, she flushed a shot in with a 7 wood. And actually, she probably started just a smidge too far to the left, and it had too much draw on it. So it landed, and I think she had adrenaline. It landed halfway into the green and just repelled over. So I mean, she struck the ball well. She probably needed to hit a little higher, a little more of a cut shot, but she was being aggressive and going for it. She needed to make birdie, maybe eagle there to put more pressure on Maya, and it didn't turn out in her favor. And Maya ended up bogeying 17 and 18 as it was, but had that three-shot cushion where she just had to
Yeah.
play smart enough and get that ball into the hole to hold the trophy over her head. But she'd done most of her work a little earlier in the round to get that lead.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was impressive. But that's why I'm saying you see these and you see it every week when you're on the ground. But the shot prowess of the example there of Nelly is just absolutely phenomenal sometimes. And like,
Yeah, well, that day, I mean, I've got my little sheep that I walk with and carry. I mean, she only missed one fairway on the weekend, and she hits I think 14 greens that day. Her putting was good, but it wasn't great. She needed to hold a couple more of those, 10 to 15 footers, and she didn't. I think she was only well, two of X on making putts in that length.
Yeah.
So, um, and that's the way it goes. But those greens were so you were so on edge that it was very hard to be aggressive with your putts because if you missed, you were 3, 4, 5 feet by.
Right. Right. We're going to take a break. We're going to be back with Kay Cockerill here on Grilling at the Green in just a minute. Stay with us. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. We'd like to thank Pig Powder and Weston Kia, of all people. I've known these guys for years. They're great folks. Largest Kia dealer in Oregon, where I live. Kay lives in California. Um, we had to remind each other of that the other day. I want to talk about a couple other players. Uh, where's it? Oh, and I'm not sure how you pronounce this. Is it Sago?
Mal Saigo.
Saigo. Okay. She was sitting on, the top of the leaderboard there for a couple of days. And then, she had a tough go over the weekend. Is she, uh, was that, let me phrase it this way. Was that a fairly new experience for her sitting on the top of something like the leaderboard on a U.S. Women's Open, that big of a stage? Or was it just the golf course got her a little bit?
Well, she had enormous pressure on her, as most out of country players do. All
Uh
these
huh.
players that come from other countries. I mean, and coming from Japan, Japan has just upped their level in the women's game. I mean, back when I was on tour, and probably up until 5 years ago, there maybe were just one or two Japanese players on tour at any time because they have such a great tour in Japan. Now we have 13 players from Japan currently playing on the LPGA tour. Five came out of Q Series. Um, there were something like, I think there were 21 Japanese players who qualified for this year's US Women's Open, and
Wow.
10 of them cut. Three of them ended up in the top 10. Mao won the first major of the year, the Chevron Championship. So she was putting herself in position to win the first two legs of the Grand Slam or the Super Slam, the five
Right.
majors that we have. So she got herself in position. She gave herself a chance, but yeah, she kind of petered out a little bit on the weekend. And I think maybe it was a bit of pressure trying to achieve that at what she's like 23 years old. Um, that would
Yeah.
have been enormous. I mean, enormous for Japan, not only for herself, but these players are playing and representing their country that is so golf savvy and golf hungry. Um, so I think for her, it just, the course wore her down a little bit. She only hit three greens on the front nine, and she was scrambling her derriere off just to stay in it, and it kind of
Yeah.
cost her in the end.
Sure. No, that's very understandable. What kind of happened to throw out a couple names at you, like Lydia Ko and Vu? Some of those, I mean, those are names we're used to hearing a lot. Um, I know Lydia kind of, she got married and had some life changes and that, but she still seems to always be in the mix. But again, was it just Aaron Hills?
I think so. I mean, Lydia's in good form. She had her, a career year last year, winning the gold medal, winning the AIG at St. Andrews, which kind of reignited her drive to win more majors and maybe extend her career just another couple years, where she had sort of been talking about possibly retiring sooner than later. So she, trying to back up a phenomenal year like that is always hard, but she is the ultimate pro. I don't think that golf course was really set up for her. It was set up for someone that was a long, strong driver of the golf ball. It really showcased like Nelly and Maya Stark, who are on the longer end of the spectrum, and even the amateur Julia Ramirez. She was averaging like 280 some yards off her tee ball. She couldn't control things very well on Sunday, but she was a long, strong ball striker. So I don't think that course was perfectly set up for Lydia. And as far as Lilia Vu, I figured she wasn't going to have a good week. She's really been struggling physically. She's had a lot of back issues that kind of keep
Uh-huh.
popping up, and she seems like she's coming around the corner and getting a hold of that, but her golf game and confidence and swing just haven't quite gotten there yet because she lost a fair bit of distance with her back issue, and she's trying to regain that power again. And so she just I was surprised she played as poorly as she did because she's a darn good putter and has a great all-around game, but I think that golf course just beat her up and she just wasn't physically or mentally tuned into it.
You talked about uh Ramirez, right? Is that the one I'm thinking of? And she can blast that ball.
Julia Lopez Ramirez. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And the comment from, I don't know, Tom Abbott or somebody up in the booth said like, "Oh, we're going to see a lot of her. She just needs to kind of control little game management there, little shot management on stuff. But she's got the distance and she's got the swing and she's
Yeah.
got the goods."
Let me correct myself real quick. Her
Okay.
distance last week, I had this written down. I'm terrible at remembering things from, even yesterday. She averaged 292 yards.
Wow.
15 yards farther than the next person Austin Kim that averaged 277, and then Nelly was third in distance. I mean, massive. I mean, she just compresses it and has that kind of power that makes people stop on the driving range because of the sound it makes.
Yes.
And she's young. She's a rookie. She actually had this crazy, she was over in Asia and had this pain in her stomach, didn't know what it was. Long story short, she flew home and had an emergency appendectomy. And
Oh,
put her out of commission for a little bit, and it took her a few weeks to start getting her swing speed back. But I guess it was back last week at the US Women's Open. She was really turning a lot of heads and getting a lot of talk with her distance.
God, I know some people, if they had an appendectomy, they'd be, laid up for months and going, "Oh, it's nice to be young again, wouldn't it be?"
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Um, so here's a odd question. We just got a few seconds before we got to go to break. How do you think you would have scored if you played in that tournament?
Well, I was never a very long ball hitter. I was accurate, so I was better on a little tighter, trickier golf course. I probably would have fared better at a course like Olympic or Pebble, where a little more strategy was involved. And in this day and age, at my game right now at age 60, I mean, if I shot 80, if I had broken 80, I would have been ecstatic. But at that length, at 67 plus,
Yes.
that's too much golf course for me. I'm more of a let's play it at 62, 63. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. We're gonna take a break and off camera, Kay and I are gonna commiserate about how we've shrunk in our distance over the years. Anyway, we'll be back in a minute. Don't go away. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green. I'm JT. Today we're talking with Kay Cockerill from NBC and Golf Channel. Um, One of the best, if not the best, on course reporters there is. And I don't say that just because you're on the show. I'm a media guy, big deal. But you are so subtle when you're giving your commentary and describing the shots and stuff versus other people sometimes on other channels, and they're all good. They wouldn't be there if they weren't good. But I've always just appreciated your kind of subtlety because you played at that level, you understand it, and you're kind of quiet about it. And once in a while you chuckle or laugh or get a "oh no" in there type thing. But I that's what I appreciate about you, Kay.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your saying that. I think it's a tricky world, the media and people that have a voice, and especially with television or radio, it's very subjective. The people at home, you there are certain tones of voice that are appealing to you and to me and to those that are watching or listening. There is a connection with the personality or the delivery, and everyone's different. Everyone hears things differently. One person's voice could be soothing and or annoying to another person. So I always say, if we're trying to appeal to a group of people at home and they're listening to five or six commentators, let's say six, and they love two of the voices, they hate two of the voices, and they're ambivalent about two of the voices, that's probably a winning equation right there, because it's just you're never going to please everyone. And I learned through the years, and this is my 31st year doing television. And when I help the younger folks coming up, I'm like, it's a fickle business. And
Yeah.
you just have to be true to yourself and find your own voice, because people can sense phoniness. And so you have to be true to yourself. And I was never going to be a comedian. I was never going to be a multiple major winning commentator who's had a Hall of Fame career. I'm me. I have my path. I can relate to a lot of what happens in this game because I experienced it, and I just hope to share those stories and feelings with those watching, so they get to know the players a little bit better and have some empathy, and maybe can have some exhilaration through watching what they're going through.
Do you ever in your headset? People don't know how it works. She hears the other commentators. She hears the director. She hears lots of things in her ears if they want to. But do you ever hear something in your ear that the public doesn't hear, but you go, "Oh God."
Oh yeah, we have a lot of jokesters and pranksters too be in there, and actually when we're at commercial and we're kind of joking with each other, we're very entertaining, and
Yeah.
we'll probably be more entertaining, but it might get a few of us fired or suspended if heard what we were talking about in commercial. Uh,
Yeah.
but sometimes I think golf commentary is too conservative and too rigid. And if we loosened up and had a little more fun, which I do feel like in general with the Golf Channel through the years, started out a very small viewership golf, cable channel, and it has grown immensely. But I feel like if we could be a little more casual more often, it would be better. We always
Yeah.
be a little, professional and stilted in our delivery, and I'd like to see everyone just relax and be funnier. Mel Reed is a relative new person to the world of golf TV. She recently retired, and she is British and she has a great sense of humor. And I think she's going to be really good for golf television because she brings a different slant and a different voice. Now, I could never sound like Mel because I don't have that quirky British humor that only they have that we love to listen to.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Oh, it's just different. And if you had too many Brits on the telecast, that's too much. But interspersing some of that cleverness that they bring to the show is great.
Well, that's why I think people like, well, Faraday is kind of, he's at the top of the scale, but his stuff was always hilarious. You had that. I think Colt Knost, he does his little kind of quiet but jabs at Frank or something, once in a while. I think that livens it up a bit because golf can be kind of almost sedentary at times. You've got to wait between shots, or if there's a backup at the turn or whatever it is. I think that personality that comes out now is more entertaining and keeps the viewership longer. So anyway, there's my
You hope to have different perspectives and different voices and different deliveries so that you can play off each other. And again, the person at home is hopefully going to like a couple of those voices and stay tuned in.
I noticed Morgan can get pretty animated at times.
Yeah, she's got a good energy level, and she brings a really thoughtful process to her preparation. She's very prepared, and she's relatively new to TV and only now 3 or 4 years removed from playing herself. So she's a little more in touch with the current players. She knows their coaches. She rings them up easily to get some insight. So yeah, she does a phenomenal job.
So how many rough numbers, but like how many caddies do you have in your phone that you can call and get some backstory with?
Hey, I married my caddy. I don't need any more caddies' phone numbers in my phone. I do have a lot of coaches' numbers in my phone, both college coaches and swing coaches. But the caddies are very important, and I try to maintain a good relationship with them because honestly, you're going to get the best information from the caddies. And that's why I usually spend a lot of time on the driving range beforehand or going out at practice rounds and establishing that rapport because I don't want to bother the player when they're warming up with some details about what they've been working on in their game or what's been the positives or negatives with their game
Yeah.
this week or what drills have they been doing that are paying off. And those are the things the caddy sees day in and day out, week in and week out. They are front and center right next to their players. So they share with me those things that they can and through their perspective, and that really helps. And when you're on the golf course as well, they're signaling me clubs that they're hitting, so I know specifically that was a 7 iron, and I'm not guessing that was that an 8 iron or 7 iron, and so those things get developed through years of trust and knowing that if they do tell me something sensitive or private, I'm not going to share that either.
Well, that's good. It seems that, and again, outside the ropes right now, but seems that players are keeping their caddies longer, and a lot of them. I mean, if they're going through turmoil, a lot of times, sometimes the caddy's the first victim of the house cleaning. But I just noticed that a lot of them are keeping their caddies a bit longer.
Yeah, there's there I think if you find a good caddy that really works for you, they're your partner. They're your partner in crime. So
Yeah.
worth holding on to them. But sometimes it takes going through several caddies to really realize what works best for you, especially like Maya and her caddy, Jeff Creighton. They'd only been together for 4 weeks. This was, I think, was their fourth week together. And Maya talked about how he just kept her calm in between. I mean, of course, he was very good. He knew the golf course, he did all his prep work, but he stayed very even keeled throughout. And she's going through all these emotions and nervousness and excitement. You need a steady hand next to you, someone that's not fazed by the situation and doesn't get high or low. And he's a former comedian, part-time comedian, so he's got a good rapport of jokes and funny way of telling stories. He's a guy from Scotland. I mean, I think you're inherently hilarious if you're born in Scotland. So he did all the right things to keep her in the right frame of mind or distract her in the right way in those down times to keep her happy and engaged. And, I always say the best a caddy can do is do everything that allows you to play your best golf
Yeah.
and intuitively know when to say something, when to be quiet. But that's all I can say is that person is there to help you excel. And their relationships seem to work really well. Well, hopefully, maybe that's the beginning of a very long-standing relationship. Another interesting story I just have to tell is talking about
Sure.
these players, twins on tour on the LPGA tour, Chisato and Akie Iwai. They're not identical twins. They both qualified. Chisato won 2 weeks ago in Mexico. They each have a caddy, but they swap. They swap each other's caddies every couple weeks. And that's kind of a thing I guess they do in Japan. They swap caddies around fairly regularly. Maybe it's to just keep things fresh. Um, but
I
at least they're only swapping between two caddies, so it's just they rotate every 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, before we go to break, you can't swap your caddy anymore.
Uh,
You're stuck. Okay.
I'm committed to life.
Yes, you are. Kay and I are going to take a break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. You're listening to Grilling at the Green on the Golf News Network. Welcome back to Grilling at the Green on GNN and here in Portland on AM 860 The Answer, and in Seattle and Wyoming and Texas and Pennsylvania and a bunch of places like that. We're talking with Kay Cockerill today from Golf Channel and NBC. So I have to tell you, I have to ask you, I should say, sorry. Uh, I've only photographed her at the tournament up here, Charlie Hall, but she's like a character. She looks like she'd be a lot of fun to be around. I know she put down the heaters and is trying to quit and all that. There was a couple of comments on there like maybe now is not the time to quit smoking type thing for her like that. Is she really a big character like that?
She is. I'm not gonna say she's a deep philosophical thinker, but she enjoys life. I love the way she plays the game. It's just very matter of fact. Again, not overthinking things. She works on what she needs to work on. She doesn't overanalyze. She reacts. She plays quickly. Um, she's aggressive and she doesn't hold back. Also, just her comments, she you never know quite what's going to come out of her mouth, and she talks so fast it's hard to catch sometimes everything she says. Plus she has a pretty thick accent, but she's just a load of fun. I love her whole package, and she's kind of that, she's that spicy, sporty girl, but then she loves to play dress up and designer shoes and bags and cute little dresses when she goes out at night and all glammed up with her makeup and hair. So, but when she's out playing, she's very minimal. She's very just, it's all about the golf. She loves to play golf. When she's at home, she just plays with her mates all the time. She doesn't grind on the practice tee. She just loves to get out and play golf. And she actually would play over here more if she just weren't so homesick. She loves to be back in England.
Yeah, I understand. Was there a real issue with between her and Lex on the slow play deal? I think that got blown out of proportion,
Yeah.
but I wasn't there.
Well, I wasn't watching that group either, but it was just, those first 2 days were so slow. Everyone was slow. And like Lexi said, they were waiting on the group in front of them. And Lexi out of that threesome is the slower player. Because Nellie's one of the fastest and Charlie is too. So relatively speaking, Lexi's going to look slow compared to them. But I think there was a lot of heat put on Lexi about being slow. So, and she was rather defensive about it. But whatever, you know, piecing together some videos, making it look like Charlie was reacting in a negative way, I think was contrived.
Yeah, I didn't catch that. I mean, I've taken pictures of all of them, as a photographer too, and I followed him. I Lexi's not that slow, you know.
No, no,
Yeah.
she can get a little slower, but she's not like in the overall scheme of things. No, but compared to Nellie and Charlie, yes, she was
Yes.
slow because they're the two of the fastest. And if all the players played that fast, it'd be great. I mean, they'd be playing in 4.5 hours or less every single time.
Those two could compete in speed golf, I'm pretty sure.
Sure. And
Yeah.
they're in great shape. Well, Charlie, that's another thing. I saw an interview and I've talked to her about it too. She's very into fitness and working out and she's gotten into running. And her goal is to run like a 5K in under 20 minutes, which is like 6.5 minute mile pace, which is huge. And so she does these phenomenal workouts, and for her it's like a release of energy and she needs that to be in a good place on the golf course. So but the byproduct is, man, she is running some fast 5 and 10Ks.
I I can drive a 6 minute mile, but in my car, the days of running at that speed are long gone. There.
No, but you remember these are all young and middle 20 somethings.
Right, right, right.
I think she's
I can still remember that far back. But I just can't enact it physically anymore. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's like that. What about a minute here, Kay? What's the biggest takeaway you had from the Aaron Hills?
Uh, well, I think that Erin Hill should be proud of hosting a great event. There were pretty good amount of fans out there. I mean, you could put 10, 15,000, 20,000 people out there, and it doesn't look like that many people are there since it's such
Yeah,
a large property. But I think a wonderful major champ won. Maya Stark kind of surprised me because she hadn't had that great a season. I think she only had one top 10 finish coming in there. Her expectations were low, but it just shows and proves that if something clicks early in the week and suddenly you make a decision that you are going to change your mindset and start believing in yourself more and go back to your style of play, which is more aggressive play, and be true to yourself, who knows what's going to happen. And Maya now can call herself a major champ, and she joins Annika Sorenstam and Lisa Lott Neumann as just the third Swede to win a major, to win the U.S. Women's Open, I should say, because Helen Alfredsson has won a different major. But there's, there's a strong Swedish contingent, and it's a little teeny country, but they're producing some great players. And I think um, I think it was a really good open. I love U.S. Women's Opens. I love the atmosphere. $12 million purse, the biggest purse in women's
love
golf.
that.
And
Yeah,
don't tell me those women weren't, feeling it down the stretch. Oh, and I do want to mention, I have this written down. A gal, a rookie on. Oh, actually, she's not even on tour. She plays on the Epson tour. Haley Cooper, Texas A&M product, finished tied for seventh, won $358,000 for that finish.
changed her life.
Nearly double what she'd made in, combination of the mini tours she's played on. And that's life changing for her. And
Yeah,
that is going to help take her to another level. And she's going to remember that week and those moments and what she did over those 4 days and the amount of players, quality players that she beat. I'm excited for her and her upcoming career.
there you go. Kay Cockerell. Kay's going to stick around for after hours. It's going to be a shorter one, but I've got new questions for her in after hours like that. But Kay, thank you very much. You're always so kind to come on the show, and I do so appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting me, as always. Yeah.
No problem. We'll be back next week with another edition of Grilling at the Green. Until then, go out, have some fun, play some golf, but most of all, be kind. Take care, everybody. Welcome to After Hours here on Grilling at the Green and Golf News Network and every place else. We've got Kay Cockerell today from Golf News. Not, I'm from Golf News Network. You're from NBC. How about that? And Golf Channel. So, since the last time we did this, I'm not going to ask you what your favorite meal would be on death row or your final meal and all that. But I do have a couple that are interesting for you. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay.
This is my off.
um,
This is my off week, so I don't know how quick on the uptake I'm going to be.
this is an easy one. You have to think a little bit. This is an easy one. If I gave you a box with everything you'd lost in your life, what would be the first thing you reached for in that box?
Oh, wow. Um, I'd have to say a little, it was a sapphire and diamond little, thin little ring, kind of like this one that my husband gave me for our 10th anniversary. And I was at the PGA Tour event in Reno, and I was putting sunscreen on. I took my ring off and set it down somewhere, and it got lost and never found. And it still irritates me to this day because that it was really sentimental. It was a sentimental piece of jewelry that I really miss.
I had my wife gave me her grandfather's wedding ring, and it was all inscribed, nice gold band and all that. And I was doing a horse show in Texas in December down outside of Houston, and it was cold. And normally I was wearing gloves. It was indoors, but it was still cold. Anyway, my hands, I think everybody does, my fingers tend to shrink up a little bit when it gets cold, right? And I pulled off my glove, and evidently that ring went flying in the dirt. I didn't notice it, probably because my hands were too dang cold. Anyway, my in-laws had come to see me. They live in Houston. They'd come to see me and take me to dinner, and I like the evening performance was over, and I looked and my ring wasn't there. I had five people out there in the center of this horse show arena looking in the dirt, and so we never did find it. So I've always felt guilty about that. Okay, on to something more fun.
Sure, not to be too attached to things.
Yes, yes. Be more attached to your permanent caddy. How's that?
Do you know what? I've never lost a golf club.
Really?
Mm.
I can't say that. Okay. What's your favorite lifesaver color?
Ooh, orange is a lifesaver color, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Orange. I was tempted to say red, but I don't really like cherry flavored things. I love cherries, but I do not like cherry flavored
Yeah, I
things.
understand.
So orange.
Uh, you're not the first person that's ever said that.
Also,
Um,
I am a San Francisco Giants fan because my husband worked there for 30 years and I grew up a fan. So orange, we have a lot of orange.
well, I have orange. Yeah. What's the one song you want to hear when you start your car and the radio comes on?
Oh, geez. That I am so bad at knowing titles to songs. Some um probably like a Beatles song like I get by with a little help from my friends, something
Yeah,
I like new music, but I also like the old music. I love Beatles songs, and so something like that, it just, puts you in a good frame of mind and a good positive outlook for the day.
I'm so glad you didn't say Journey from the band Journey. They're a good band. They're from San Francisco, but you know, you expanded your reach there, Kay. Name an unsung hero in the golf world.
Well, maybe she's not as unsung anymore, Marion Hollins, who basically helped create Pebble Beach companies and the Pebble Beach Golf Course and Cypress Point, and was good friends with Bobby Jones. And she had ideas and helped create some holes, including the famous 16th at Cypress. And she owned and built Pasatiempo.
Oh, there you go.
And he is somebody who was way ahead of her time in the 20s and 30s, doing things that women really weren't encouraged to do.
That is excellent example. Um, Name a player you think is underrated.
Um, Boy, that's a good question. I'm thinking LPGA, but my brain wanted to go to Gino Titicun because I don't know how much the the big golfing world knows her. I mean, she's certainly made her mark on the LPGA tour.
Mm-hmm.
She, I think right now is the best player. I hate to put this moniker on somebody because no one
Sure.
cares, especially since she's only like 23 years old, but I definitely think she's the best player to not have won a major yet and
Okay.
out of time.
What's the first thing you reach for when you're done covering a round?
Uh,
When you get to take off the headset and the belt pack and
yeah.
you're kind of free.
Um, I probably just like to kick off my shoes because I've probably just walked 6 to 7 miles and put some sandals on.
Yeah.
Maybe when I hike, you go out and hike 8 to 10 miles and a lot of elevation. You just want to get those shoes off and put some sandals or flip-flops on.
There you go. There you go. What's a golf course that you would like to play that you have not played yet?
Um, gosh, probably, well, Augusta. I haven't played Augusta yet.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, and or I'm thinking like I've played a lot of the good courses in Scotland, but in Ireland, Royal Portrush, where they're going to have the men's
Oh,
British
yeah.
up up in Northern Ireland. That would be I'd like to go play several of the Irish courses.
Okay. Um, you're on the road a lot. Name one place you always look forward to going to.
For work,
Yeah.
well, I love Portland.
But you're not coming this year.
No, and I loved Seattle. I loved going up to Sahali a
Yeah.
couple of times in the last 10 years for the KPMG. I'm very partial to the Northwest and the Northeast. I am not working it this year either, but the a new event last year, it'll be in its infancy. I think it's the second year, unless in Boston, the FM Championship. I like
Mm,
it as well. We
I love Boston.
Northeast, and we the tour is slowly getting back to the Northeast, but yeah.
I love Boston. Um,
Also, I have a new favorite from this year,
what's that?
Utah and the Black Desert Champion.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool. I mean, talk about stunning backdrop and a really cool golf course. That was phenomenal, and there's great hiking all around that spot.
The funniest thing you ever saw happen to a colleague while you were on the air that we did not see at home that you can talk about.
Oh, gosh, I that's a good question. I don't know if I don't really have an answer for that one. I'd have to think long and hard.
Okay. Well, we'll cover that the next time you come on the show. How's that?
Good. That would make us have another date down the road that we'll have
Yeah.
to back up.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. I will actually email you a couple of these questions in advance next time, like a week or two before. Okay.
Very good. Now, if you were talking to Grant Boone, he'd probably have like five of those things immediately come to his brain.
um, what's one thing you wish spectators would not do?
Well, yell mashed potatoes.
Oh God, yeah.
Probably the stupidest thing, or yell something silly just so that they can later go back and hear their voice on TV. I'm assuming that's what it's for. Um, Otherwise, I think, spectators for the most part, I like everything they do, and I don't think, I think sometimes players are a little too critical of if spectators are moving around or making noise. I think you got to give spectators a little leeway. They're out there having fun, maybe drinking a beer, eating, having, hanging out with their buddies. And I think it's incumbent on players to just put the blinders on and be a little more focused and not expect spectators to be perfectly still and motionless and quiet while they're hitting. I never minded a little bit of action and noise. It meant that there were people around. And
Yeah.
the LPGA spectators, I just think in general, are more well behaved. It's not the crazy crew that you get at some of the PGA events a la Phoenix, which is just nutso. And even
Sure.
I don't think they'd want to play in that environment all the time.
No.
Years from the stands out onto the greens. That's not cool. You have
No.
you got to keep it outside the ropes.
Yeah, and you said mashed potatoes. The other one is get in the hole from 185 yards out. I think it's like, what? Okay.
So odds of that ball going in the hole every single time a ball's
Yeah. Yeah. couple of food questions for you, Kay. Red or green relish? I had a big go back and forth with Charlie Reimer a couple of weeks ago because he was like green relish only, and this on social media. And I said, no, Charlie, red relish was actually made for hamburgers, which is true. I mean, I'm a food guy, right?
Right. And you know about the burger dogs that are sold at Olympic Club and
Right.
other very exclusive places. They have a red relish, pickle relish that they put on that is specifically made for that burger.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a relish person. I do not do relish at all. I do
Okay.
grilled onions. I always want a grilled onion. In fact, when I order up the burger dog, I go grilled onions and then I just a little mustard. I'm a minimalist when it comes to my burger dogs, and I don't put relish on hot dogs. I don't mind a dill pickle, but I don't like the relish. I'm a salsa girl. If you ask me about salsa, I put salsa on everything, on eggs, chips and salsa. I would even put salsa on vegetables.
Well, sure. I'll have to send you a picture of a recipe I did a couple of weeks ago on TV where it was a chicken thigh, basil chicken thigh with some orange on it with mango peach salsa on rice. It was a pretty good dish.
I I would be open to try any and all salsas. Chunky, smooth, hot, mild. Send it my way.
Okay, last question. What's the oldest thing in your refrigerator?
Ooh.
I say that because you're gone a lot. So,
Worcestershire sauce, which I probably buy for like a couple, like one or two uses a year. I don't use it a lot, but it's in there and it's like I pull it out. Ooh, how long has this been in here for?
that's like I tell people my wife and I have been together for 30, well, we've been married 34 years and we're on our second bottle of Tabasco. So
I don't think they have expiration dates though, do
I,
they?
I I don't think so either. And I anyway, Kay, thank you. You've been a great sport as always in after hours, and thanks for being on the regular show. And I'm sorry you're not coming to Portland, but I'm sure our paths will cross again one of these days. So it's all good.
Sounds like a plan. Thanks so much for the time.
No problem. We'll be back next week with another edition of After Hours here on Grilling at the Green. And like we always say, go out, have some fun, play some golf, but most importantly, be kind. Take care, everybody.